Beloved, as we come to this weekend, it is Transfiguration Sunday. So I want to talk a little bit to us as Pentecostals from a Pentecostal perspective of the weight of the glory. For those of us shaped within Pentecostal spirituality, the language of glory isn't abstract theology. It's the air we breathe. From our earliest days, we've prayed for the glory to fall. We've testified to moments when the glory filled the room, and we've heard our elders speak of services where the glory was so thick, not only could you hardly stand, we heard them say you could cut it with a knife. Glory for us is not merely God's reputation or his honor. It's his felt presence, the radiance of his nearness that marks ordinary places and ordinary people with the weight of that divine reality, the kavod, the glory of God. And yet, if we have any wisdom at all, we know this glory doesn't belong to us. It's never self-generated and it cannot be manufactured. It comes only from proximity to the one who calls, who speaks, and who reveals himself. When Moses came down from Sinai, his face shone, not because of his own charisma, but because he had stood before the face of God, the face of Christ. He carried a glory that was not his own, a radiance that came from encounter. This is the essence of what we embrace as Pentecostals. Not our brilliance, but his reflection when the Spirit falls, when heaven presses into earth, when we become radiant. It's not because we've achieved some spiritual height, but because we've lingered in his presence long enough to be marked by it. This glory is not private. In Pentecostal worship, we often describe glory in personal terms. I felt the glory hit me, the glory overwhelmed me. And yet glory is never meant to terminate with us as individuals. It's always a witness. Moses' face didn't shine for his own sake, but for the people. The glory was meant to make a declaration. What was the declaration? God is near, God speaks, and these commandments are not the words of a distant deity, but the living words of the God whose beauty breaks through human flesh. Pentecostal glory, if it's authentic, is never a show. It's a sign. It declares to the world that the living God is in our midst. That's why, beloved, Pentecostal glory is always Christ-shaped. We don't chase after power for its own sake. In John 16:14, the Spirit glorifies the Son and the Son glorifies the Father. That triune dance of communion. All the glory we seek is ultimately the glory of the crucified and risen Christ. The beauty of the Lamb who was slain, who now stands victorious. The face that shines upon us is the face of Jesus, and the Spirit conforms us into that very image. Pentecostal glory, then, isn't a disembodied light show. It's cruciform radiance. It's the beauty of love poured out, the majesty of wounds transfigured, the brilliance of resurrection still bearing the scars of Calvary. At our best as Pentecostals, we understand that this glory touches not just the high moments of our worship, but the ordinary ground beneath our feet. It's not confined to tents and to altars. It lingers in kitchens, hospital rooms, prayer closets, and yes, even funeral homes. The same Spirit who fills the sanctuary fills the spaces where mothers intercede for their children and weary laborers whisper prayers on the job. Pentecostal glory is a sacrament of the ordinary because the Spirit who makes us shine doesn't separate us from the earth. He fills earthen vessels with treasure. He makes boots shine, not because they're impressive, but because they have carried tired feet along the path of faithfulness. Ultimately, Pentecostal glory is eschatological glory, the radiance of the age to come breaking into the present moment. We're not just experiencing personal ecstasy, we're being transfigured. As we turn our faces toward Christ, the Spirit is changing us from glory to glory, from faith to faith, remaking us into the image of the Son. Every genuine taste of glory is a preview of what creation itself is groaning for, the day when the whole earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Until that day, we carry this weight of glory, not to hoard it, not to parade it, rather to bear witness to the God who still shines, still speaks, and still makes faces radiant with his royal, loyal love.